United States Navy, U.S., and the United Kingdom completed their first joint exercise in the contested South China Sea, which includes waters claimed by China. The exercise, which lasted for 6 days, marked the first time the U.S. and Britain had worked together in the region. The U.S. often exercises in the South China Sea as a show of strength, but British forces have recently begun stepping up their efforts in the disputed region. There is no record in history of joint operations, especially in the South China Sea, said a U.S. Navy spokesman. The U.S. military announced Wednesday that a guided missile destroyer guided by USS McCampbell and British Royal Navy frigate HMS Argyll carried out operations in the South China Sea. "We routinely train with allies and regional partners, but this is a rare opportunity for my team to work with the Royal Navy," Commander Alison Christie said in a release. "Professional involvement with our colleagues in the UK allows us to build strong relationships and learn from each other. This joint exercise occurs as the US has called on its international partners to step up their actions in the South China Sea. China continues to build island bases at sea, and asserted their right to do so, which the US debates. Some countries claim territories in the South China Sea. The US and UK carried out communication and distribution tactics during the 6 days of training, according to the US military. Beijing expressed its anger after British Royal Navy warships sailed close to the islands claimed by China in the South China Sea at the end of last month, and said that Britain was involved in provocation, and that Beijing has lodged a strong complaint. HMS Albion, a 22,000-ton amphibious ship carrying a contingent of Royal Marines, exercised the right of freedom of navigation as it passed near the Paracel Islands, two sources familiar with the matter but asked not to be identified. The Albion ship was on its way to Ho Chi Minh City, where it docked on Monday, 3 nights after deployment in and around Japan. One source said that Beijing sent an escort ship and 2 helicopters to challenge the British warship, but the two sides remained calm during the meeting. Another source said that Albion did not enter the territorial sea around all aspects of the disputed territory provocatively, but showed that Britain did not recognize excessive maritime claims around the Paracel Islands. 12 nautical miles is an internationally recognized territorial boundary. The Paracel Islands are occupied entirely by China, but are also claimed by Vietnam and Taiwan. The Chinese Foreign Ministry, in a fax statement sent to Reuters, said that the ship had entered Chinese territorial waters around the Paracel Islands on August 31 without permission, and the Chinese Navy had warned her to leave. Relevant actions by British ships violate Chinese law and relevant international law, and violate Chinese sovereignty. China strongly opposes this and has made a strong statement with the British to express strong dissatisfaction. China strongly urges the British side to immediately stop provocative actions, to avoid wider damage to bilateral relations and regional peace and stability, he said. China will continue to take all steps necessary to maintain its sovereignty and security. The meeting took place at a complicated time in London-Beijing relations. Britain is seducing China for a post-Brexit free trade agreement, and the two countries want to illustrate how they have a golden era in their relations. A spokesman for the British Navy said, HMS Albion exercises its right to freedom of navigation in full compliance with international law and norms. Spokesman for the British Prime Minister Theresa May said that Britain had strong relations with China. Chinese claims in the South China Sea, where $3 trillion trade vessels cross each year, are contested by Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan and Vietnam. Britain has no territorial claims in the area. Although the United States Navy (US) has conducted freedom of navigation operations (FONOPs) in the same region before, the UK's challenge to China's growing control in these strategic waters came after the United States said that they wanted to see more international participation in action like that. Both Britain and the United States say that they carry out FONOP operations throughout the world, including in areas claimed by allies. The British Navy had previously sailed close to the disputed Spratly Islands, farther south in the South China Sea, several times in recent years, but not within 12 nautical miles, regional diplomatic sources said. Singapore-based South China Sea expert Ian Story said that Britain had strong traditional interests in defending freedom of navigation, but routine deployment in the South China Sea would be limited because of the limited number of warships and heavy demands in other parts of the world. British action will please Washington because the Trump administration has grumbled that U.S. allies have neglected to uphold freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. But China will be disappointed as it says that U.S. allies are responding to Washington's request. The U.S. might also encourage other U.S. allies to take similar steps. FONOPs have so far not persuaded Beijing to limit activities in the South China Sea, including the reclamation of coral reefs and large islands, as well as the construction of runways, hangars and missile systems. Beijing said that it had the right to build on its territory and said that the facility was for civilian use and self-defense purposes as needed. China blames Washington for militarizing the region with its freedom to patrol navigation. Foreign aircraft and ships in the region are routinely challenged by Chinese Navy ships and monitoring stations on fortified islands, according to previous sources. In April, a warship from Australia, which, like Britain was a close ally of the US, had what Canberra described as a close encounter with the Chinese Navy in the contested sea. Albion is one of 3 British Navy ships deployed to Asia this year, along with HMS Argyll and HMS Sutherland. In a speech in Jakarta in August, Foreign Office Minister for Asia and the Pacific Mark Field said that Britain was committed to a lasting security presence in Asia, and urged countries to respect freedom of navigation and international law in the South China Sea. The law included the decision of the Permanent Arbitration Court in The Hague, whose assessment in 2016 criticized China's actions in the South China Sea, and found no basis for its broad historical claims. Beijing has repeatedly rejected the decision, and previously refused to participate in cases filed by the Philippines.